In this lecture, we are going to render a block with output buffers. Whenever possible, I prefer to write HTML with syntax highlighting. I don't like writing HTML inside a string unless it's a single line of code. Unfortunately, that task will be difficult with our block's render function. In your editor, open the searchform.php file. Inside the string, I'm going to add a paragraph tag. As you can see, the paragraph element does not receive syntax highlighting from the editor. It's difficult to read our code. Unfortunately, WordPress expects us to return the template. This means we must return a string. Luckily, PHP has a feature for grabbing the output called buffers. Output buffers are an interesting feature of PHP. By default, PHP will send content directly to the browser as it processes your PHP code. It does not send the entire document all at once. If we wrote an echo statement, the message would appear in the browser. However, if we have more code, the message may appear before the rest of the code has been processed. I like to use the analogy of viewing a large image on the browser. Typically, browsers don't wait for the entire image to be downloaded. Large images are displayed as they're being downloaded. As you can see from this example, the image is slowly coming in. It's the same for PHP. This behavior may not always be desirable. In some cases, you may want to wait for every line of PHP code to be executed. After PHP is finished running, you can send the content all at once. That's possible with a feature called output buffering. An output buffer will tell PHP not to send the document in bits and pieces. Instead, the content will be stored in memory. After PHP is finished running, the content will be sent to the browser. However, we have the option of closing the output buffer. The content stored in the memory can be stored in a variable as a string. As a result, we can return the string from the function. Let's look at an example. At the top of the function, let's run a function called obstart. Before and after the function, I'm going to add an echo statement. This function is defined by the PHP language. It will tell PHP to store content in an output buffer. The echo statement before the obstart function will be sent to the browser immediately, whereas the echo statement after it will be sent to the browser after WordPress is finished running. You may not be able to notice the difference if you were to view the page. We are running this on our machines. Writing an echo statement does not require many resources. It's a very fast line of code. However, the point is still the same. We are preventing PHP from sending content to the browser until every line has finished running. So, you may be wondering, how does this help us? We have the option of grabbing content stored in the output buffer into a variable. For example, after the echo statement, create a variable called output. The value for this variable will be the obgetContents function. This function will search for an active output buffer. If it finds one, the content from the buffer will be returned from the function as a string. You can probably guess what that means. We can return this variable from our function. Let's replace the string with the output variable from the return statement. There's one more thing. After the output variable, let's run a function called obendClean. The obendClean function performs two actions. Firstly, it'll stop output buffering from running. PHP will revert to its original behavior. Secondly, the output buffer will have its memory wiped. Content stored in the output buffer will be lost. We should always end the buffer. Other plugins may not appreciate having a buffer. Keep in mind, we may not be the only plugin on a site. We are sharing resources on a machine with other plugins and themes. Clearing the buffer is beneficial to us. If we have another block, the content from a previous block will not clutter the buffer for another block. Before testing our code, let's remove the echo statements. Next, let's grab the templates. open the index.js file for the search form block. We are going to grab the HTML for the template. Do not grab the fragment element or inspector controls component. Head back to the render function. We are going to close and open PHP mode after the OB_start function. Inside the HTML area, paste in the template. The template is not going to be functional. That's perfectly fine. The goal is to render the HTML, refresh the experimental page on the front end. Perfect. The block gets rendered. We can proceed to update the template with PHP functions to achieve the same appearance as before. Let's begin modifying the template in the next lecture. I'll see you there.